Welcome to the Premier League preview for round 30. Let's kick things off with a look back to the Dream Team score for round 29. It was probably the lowest score I've ever had, with only 28 points, and that's taken me down to around 19k now, with 1,621 points. Not a single goal or assist in my entire team this week. I correctly predicted an Arsenal clean sheet, however Bellerin was rested, so I didn't benefit from that. Aguero failed to score for the third week in a row as City lost 1-0 to Burnley. Kane and Eriksen were almost invisible for Spurs during their 3-0 defeat to Man United, and although Hazard had a decent game and had a big scoring chance saved by Forster, in the end it was a blank for him as well. Although it was another fairly low scoring week all round really, so it shouldn't mean too much in the grand scheme of things. So now let's move on to the players to watch. To start us off is Benteke. He's on fire at the minute, with 3 goals and 1 assist from his last 2 games. What's worth noting, however, is that he's scored with every shot he's taken in those last 2 matches, which almost sounds impressive, but actually means that he's only taken 3 shots. However, he is still averaging 2.8 shots per game overall, so that's a little bit more promising. With home games against Swansea and QPR over the next 3 weeks, and a double game week confirmed for game week 31, he's certainly one to keep your eye on with a price of just 7.4 million. Ramsey is up next. I could have picked almost any Arsenal attacker for this spot. Sanchez, Giroud, Ozil, Cazorla. I think they'll all have a great chance of putting in some goals past the Newcastle side with hardly any available defenders, now that Colaccini is suspended. The reasoning behind picking Ramsey here is that he didn't start the Champions League game against Monaco and is therefore more rested for the Premier League game against Newcastle this weekend. He started to show a glimpse of his former self last weekend after returning from injury to grab a goal and assist in Arsenal's comfortable 3-0 win over West Ham. And now he has 4 goals and 3 assists to his name for the season. And he also managed a goal in the game against Monaco when he came on as a sub. So I can see him providing another good score this weekend. Next up is Sakho. West Ham haven't been great recently, but with their good run of fixtures to end the season, with games against Sunderland, Leicester, Stoke, QPR, Burnley, Villa and Newcastle, and the only tough game on paper being Man City, I think West Ham players like Sakho, Downing and Cresswell could become good picks once again. Sakho was chosen to play as the lone striker for the game against Arsenal last weekend, and although he's only scored once since returning from injury, he has faced Southampton, Spurs, Chelsea and Arsenal in 4 out of those 5 games. But I can see him finding form before the end of the season, and I think that will start this weekend with his home game against Sunderland. Finally, I'm going to predict that Alderweireld will have a good week. He's recently returned from injury and now sits at just 4.7 million, which is incredibly cheap for a nailed-on Southampton defender. Whilst he might not be as attacking as Font, Klein or Bertrand, he did come close with a free kick against Chelsea last weekend, so perhaps we'll see him take a few more of those. With games against Burnley, Hull and Stoke over the next 4, he's got a great chance of some clean sheets, so he's definitely a great option. So now let's take a look at the changes to the FPL Tips Dream Team as it stands going into game week 30. I'm not looking to use my free transfer this week. I'm hoping to bring in another West Brom defender, potentially next game week, but for this one, I'm fairly happy with my team, aside from my defence. In terms of selection, I'll be starting Bellerin away to Newcastle, Hutton at home to Swansea and Klein at home to Burnley, although it's quite likely that Hutton will be kept from a starting place by Bakuna, who's been performing well in his absence, and also likely that Bellerin will be rested for Chambers. So I fully expect to have to make use of Van Aanholt, who is away to West Ham, and Lescott, who is away to Man City. For my captain, there looks to be a lot of options on paper, with Aguero facing West Brom at home, Kane at home to Leicester, Sanchez and Hazard with away games against Newcastle and Hull. All of those players blanked last game week though, so it's difficult to decide which one will turn out a good performance this week. At the moment, I'm leaning towards Kane, because I expect Spurs will react positively to the defeat against United last weekend, but I am also tempted to stick with Aguero once again. I'd like to take a moment to advertise my FPL ebook. I spent most of last season writing it, and I'm pleased to say it's now available for only $2.99. It covers all of the theory and strategies behind what makes a good FPL manager, everything you need to be thinking about in order to get the most out of the game. So please help support me and the FPL Tips channel by checking it out.